How you doing, guys? This is Ryan here. Just want to talk to you a little bit about the FMS. Every quarter, we add the FMS into our monthly testing. This is what we do with the BEAST method athletic analysis. We take the perform better with the performance test, we take the look better with the body composition, and we take the feel better with the functional movement screening. The functional movement screen is the one that only pops up 4 times a year, so most people have a few questions about it, about why we do it. The purpose of doing the FMS is for safety reasons. We have athletes of various skill levels in our program, and when we're in a session with 1 to 15 or 1 to 30 athletes, we need to be able to make sure that we can progress and regress certain movements so that you guys are safe. The FMS was set up to find stability throughout the human body, not just through physical activity in a fitness environment, but also through physical activity in your daily lives. All the patterns that you go through in the functional movement test are patterns of everyday life, such as the squat, such as moving your shoulders in a vertical pattern, maybe reaching up over your head to get something out of the cabinet, maybe picking certain things up in a split stance or in a squat stance. All of these things, pushing yourself off the floor or playing with your kids, all of these things, these type of movement patterns you may find in your daily life. So what we want to do with this is assess your quality of movement, see where there might be some breaks in the chains, and see if we can't fix them. So the first movement that we always go through in the FMS is the overhead squat. We're looking at a lot of things. This is a total body movement. First thing we're looking at ankle mobility. Okay? When we're going through the squat, and it's one thing, let me back up a second. It's one thing to understand that this is not the way we'd have you do these particular movements in a fitness or exercise environment. We've changed the movement patterns just a little bit so that we can isolate parts of the body to, again, find that stability. Okay? So in the squat, we have you turn your toes forward so that we're looking at ankle mobility and see if you can properly proportion your weight. Okay? Most people can and get somewhat good depth with their toes forward and have their knees track directly over your toes and keeping your torso up. So what that would look like without the down over my head would be just a squat, trying to get at least a parallel and trying to keep my toes right over my knees right over my toes. Most people, you'll find that as you squat, your hips externally rotate and your toes move out. We're looking to see if you can do this keeping the toes in line. So that's also going to tell us ankle flexibility, mobility, but it's also going to tell us a little bit about your hips. A lot of people, if you don't have ankle mobility, you can't get proper depth. So we're looking at that. We're looking at the angle of your thigh or your femur to your spine. Okay? And a lot of people, when they squat, they tend to hinge at the waist once the ankles get locked up, and then they move here. If you were loaded in this position, you had a barbell or kettlebell or dumbbell, this would put a lot of pressure in your lower back. So we don't have very much stability there. Another thing that we're looking at is in an overhead position. A lot of people struggle to get in the overhead position. I have very long arms, so the further I widen my arms out, the more stable I feel. Okay? But because of shoulder tightness and maybe tightness in my chest that limits range of motion in my shoulder, when bringing my elbows to 90 degrees and then extending overhead, puts a lot of stress into my shoulders because of tight chest, but then also because of lack of thoracic or upper back mobility. So that's what we're looking for as well in this test. When you put the two movements together, it really forces the person into the right position, or it exposes the wrong movement patterns. Okay? And that's what we're looking for, seeing if you have natural movement that is in the correct movement pattern. So for instance, if we have you go through this test and you're getting in a squat, you're getting to that 90-degree position, you extend overhead, and you squat, and your knees may go in, and you start to hinge, you don't automatically get a 3, because your highest score you can get is a 3. We may then ask you to elevate your heels. What this is going to do is allow more range of motion in the ankle. And most people can get into a squat from that position. With the bar overhead directly over your ears, you can then squat, getting the femur and the back parallel to each other on a plane, and then standing back up in the hole. Okay? If you cannot perform with the feet elevated, then most likely we have some breakdown in the thoracic spine, a bit of stiffness, and then we also have maybe a hip, ankle, or a knee issue. Okay? So looking at that first test in the FMS is the overhead squat. A lot of things we're looking at, total body here. We're going to continue with this series, and the next one we're going to work on will be the hurdle step.